In this video, we're going to be checking out the top 5 Carter Beauford drum beats. I'm excited about this one. Back whenever Dave Matthews Band released their first album, I jumped on it and was an immediate fan of Carter's playing. These beats are actually from his earlier time with Dave Matthews Band. They've got such an extensive discography that it's hard to cover it all, especially whenever they're more of a jam band. So anytime I cover drummers like this, I'll be covering some in the future. I just know I have to kind of take snippets and we take the pieces from them that we can because there's so much improvisation within this. 2 things. Be sure to download the sheet music. The link is in the video description as well as a pinned comment. You'll want to. There's lots of goodies in this one and some things that I'm not exactly showing in this video as well. You will want to check out this series. So this is a series I'm doing top, 5, 10, 3 drum beats from tons of drummers. I put a ton of those links below. Steve Gadd, all kinds, Neil Peart, there's tons of them. So go check those out. Those links are below. But let's get to this lesson and break out what Carter is doing on some of my favorite tracks. This first one is Satellite, all right? It's gonna be about 123 BPM. And we're in 6/8 time. This is gonna come right at about the 15-second mark whenever the drums come in, all right? So we're in 6/8, and this is gonna make use, remember, we're gonna take a 4-bar snippet here. This is gonna make use of several things that you'll see come up within Carter's playing. Now, one that we need to notice is his use of accents on the hi-hat, all right? You're gonna see that recurring within his playing, throwing abnormal accents within there and really utilizing the depth that there is in sound on the hi-hat, all right? So we're gonna play this first measure. It's gonna go the first 3 beats, 1, 2, 3. It's gonna go a crash with the kick drum, so 1 accented hi-hat on 2, and then 3 E, all right? Or 3 and if you wanna count it like that. Real important. Now, this one is somewhat of a slow 6/8 tune, all right? So it's slower than you think. Now, we have a snare on 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we have the and of 4, 5, and 6, and. 4, 5, and 6, and on the kick drum. 4, 5, and 6, and. All right? Now, how you play that, how I play that is 1, 2, 3, and 5 and 6 and. Okay, I kind of stick it alternating. You can watch live to see how he does that. 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6. All right, going into the next measure, we have 1 on the kick drum with no hi-hat. We'll call those and. The 16th notes, we'll just call those and. So it's going to go 1 and 2. And then 3 and. So 1 and unaccented, accent on 2, unaccented on 3, accent on the and of 3, all right? So there's a lot of unaccented and accented notes. So 4, 5, 6, 4 and 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now on beat 4, he's got a snare drum. It's gonna be a dotted 8th note. So it's gonna be 3 16th notes long. So it's gonna go 4 and 5. And then on the and of 5 and the and of 6, we have a hi-hat accented on 6. It's got a kick drum with it. So it's gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 6 and. The whole measure. 4, 5, 6. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and. Now, let's go on to the next measure. We're going to be playing 1 and 2. 1 is unaccented with a kick drum. 2 is accented on the hi-hat. Then we're going to be playing the and of 3. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and. Then on 4, we have a snare accent, again, a dotted 8th note, so 3 16th notes. And then those other 3 16th notes are going to be played here on the hi-hat. So it's going to go 4 and 5 and 6 and, with a kick drum on the and of 6. Something to note is that there's an accent on the and of 5 and the and of 6 here on the hi-hat. So it goes 4 and 5 and 6 and, 4 and 5 and 6 and. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and. All right, let's play everything we've got so far. 4, 5, 6. The downbeat of the next measure, measure 4, has a kick drum. The and of 1 has an unaccented hi-hat. 2 is an accented hi-hat, followed by 3 and, with an unaccented hi-hat on that and of 3. 1 and 2, 3 and, 1 and 2, 3 and then a flam on beat 4. 1 and 2, 3 and. Let's play all of that together. There was a lot, so let's put it together. 4, 5, 6. Let me put that to a click and play it for you. Beat number 2 is from the song So Much to Say, right at about the 152 mark in the song. This is going to be 115 BPM, so it's moving a little bit quicker. 4/4 time. To start off, again, accenting the hi-hat, and again, some of the things that seem random in his playing are actually small snippets that he'll repeat throughout that, and we'll see that several times within this groove. So let's check out this first measure. We have a crash on beat 1 with a kick drum, then we wait till the of 1 where we have an accented hi-hat. Beat 2, we have an unaccented hi-hat with the kick drum, and then the upbeat of 2 is a snare drum accent. So it's gonna go 4, E, and 2, and on beat 3, we omit the kick drum, and that's really what makes this groove feel so off kilter when he comes into it, is he misses that 3 on the kick drum. The rest of the time, he's walking that kick drum or doing a slight samba type of an ostinato, sliding into the downbeats. So it kind of really makes it feel off kilter with everything else that's going on there. Now, on beat 3, we have 3 E and 3 E and 3 E and On beat 4, it's a kick drum, and the upbeat of 4 is going to be on your second tom. So it's an accented hi-hat with an upbeat on the floor tom, or on your second tom, my first floor tom. So it's going to go 4 and 4 and. That whole measure, 4 E and 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4. Measures 2 and 3 look exactly the same, and the measure 4 looks very similar to measure 1. So measure 2, for beats 1 and 2, we're going to have 16ths on the hi-hat in beat 1. It's going to go 1 E and accent on the hi-hat. Kick drum is 1 E and Beat 2 is 2 E and here on the snare drum. Kick drum on the downbeat of 2. So both beats. In the third beat, it's a rhythm similar to the rhythm we saw in measure 1 on beat 3, but it's going to be split up between the hi-hat. So we have kick drum again on 3, so it's going to go 3 E and with them both together. 3 E and And then on 4, it's going to be kick drum, hi-hat accent, and then your second tom. So it's going to go 4 and. That whole measure, 4 E and 1 E and. Measure 3 looks exactly like measure 2, all right? Now, we're going back to measure 4, or we're going to measure 4. Measure 4 brings in elements from measure 1. So you'll see that he's using a lot of different elements, but just reusing them, maybe rearranging them. You'll see the pattern, the 16th note pattern from beat 1 of measure 2 come up on beat 3 in this measure, all right? So measure 3 starts off just like measure 1 did. So it's gonna, the same 2 beats, those 2 beats are exactly the same. Beat 3 comes to 16th notes on the hi-hat, so 3 E and the kick drum is 3 E and but we're accenting the E and the here. So and then 4 is exactly like every other measure, except we hit the floor tom this time, so it's going to go 4 and. Let me play that measure for you. 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 4 and. Let me put all these together slowly with no click, and then I'll add a click slow and then speed it up to the album tempo. 4 E and 1 2 and 3 E and 4 and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 and 1 E and 2 E and 4 and 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4. For this next one, we're gonna be back in 6/8, and this is from the song Pantala Naga Pampa, I think it is. I believe that's the name. Some of their names get kind of long. It's at the 3 minute and 2 second mark, and this is gonna be moving. The 8th note's gonna be at 210 BPM in 6/8 time. This is going to be make use of not only the accents on the hi-hat, but his very famous use of the hi-hat while he's on the ride cymbal, okay? So let's go ahead and check this out. In measure 1, it's going to be a 4-measure loop. So in measure 1, we have 1, 2, 3 here on the ride cymbal. Got that out of the way. On the kick drum, we have 1, 2, 3, and. So, all right. Now, let's go ahead and check out what the left hand is doing. Now, throughout this, the ride cymbal just plays 8th notes. Let's check out what the left hand is doing. That's the interesting part. So it's going to go 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. Right. On beat 4, we have a snare drum, and then he's going to come over here on the and of 5. So it's going to go 4, 5. He opens the hi-hat for 1/8 note, but he hits 3/16 notes. So it's going to go 5 and 6 in. Going on to the next measure, again, eighth notes here on the ride cymbal. It's going to go 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 between here. In the kick drum, we have 1, 2, and the and of 3. On beat 4, we have the snare, just like I was playing, and then 5 and 6 and, accenting those ands. So 4, 5, 6. All right, let's play all that together. 4, 5, 6. Now, going on to the next measure. Again, eighth notes here. But here he diddles the and of 1. So same kick drum pattern, same pattern over here, except he diddles the and of 2 with that. And then we have the same exact pattern as 4, 5, 6 in the second measure. So there he is again using that same pattern over. And then in measure 4, he has a stacker actually, or a splash cymbal, choked cymbal on beat 1. But I'm going to use my ride cymbal bell for that because that was the only one in this whole thing. So we're going to have 1, 2, and 3 accenting on the hi-hat. And then 4, 5, 6 looks exactly like measures 2 and 3. Let me put that all together for you very slowly without a click. 4, 5, 6. Let's check this all out with a click at a slower tempo and then at a faster tempo or at the album tempo. Number 4 is crush, and it's where the drums come in. It's a great example of a broken hi-hat groove like he likes to play. We have a lot of use of accented hi-hats in his grooves. We have a lot of use of single individual elements repeated within there. We have a lot of use of him playing the ride cymbal and then filling in on the hi-hat, and then we have a lot of broken grooves from him. The beauty about his broken grooves is he has something that's consistent, usually, all right? So in this one, it's 1 and in every measure on the kick drum, 2 and 4 on the snare drum in every measure, and that keeps things locked down, and he can kind of decorate around that, if you will. All right, so let's check out this first measure. This is also an example of a slight swing to the rhythm whenever he's playing, all right? So on beat 1, 1 and on the kick drum, and then we have 1 E and Beat 2 is going to be snare drum. It's going to be 2 E, and then the of 2 is accented. So 1 E and a 2 E and a. 1 E and a 2 E and a. 1 E and a 2 E and a. Beat 3, we have that same off hi-hat pattern, so the E's and the U's, but we're accenting the E of 3 and not accenting the of 3. So 3 E and a, 3 E and a. And then 4, it goes 4 E and a. So 4 accented, E accented, unaccented, unaccented. Now, going on to measure 2, it's going to be a hi-hat with the kick drum, 1 and then 2 looks exactly like rhythmically measure 1, except he's unaccenting the of 2 this time instead of accenting. So it's going to go E and E and He opens the hi-hat on the E of 3 and leaves it open until the downbeat of 4. It's really important to see when he opens and when he closes things because he varies that as well. So he opens it on the E of 3, closes it on the downbeat of 4 with the snare drum, and then waits to hit the hi-hat until the of 4. So those two beats. That whole measure. Now, I tend to play that left or that of 4 with the left hand just because it feels a little bit better coming into the downbeat of that. Now, the next measure looks exactly the same for the first 2 beats as that last measure, except he takes that and reuses the element that he used in measure 1 on beat 2. So he's now going to be accenting the of 2, all right? So it's going to go. The E of 3 is accented. The of 3 is a ghost note, so 3 and so as light as you can play it, 3 and and then we have 4 E and another ghost note on that hi-hat on the so 3 and 3 and. Then on the downbeat of beat 4, again, we have 1 and. We're going to play that same pattern again where we accent 2, unaccented the E, and then the accent the Then we're going to play the same pattern we played in measure 2, except instead of opening the hi-hat, he plays an accent on the snare drum, then 4, and then and with the kick drum and the hi-hat. All right, I know this is a lot of notes, but when we're dissecting a jam band, it's better to just look at that and go, okay, what is all that? All right, now let's play it together, see how it sounds. And once you start looping it, you can loop certain sections, take out certain sections, repeat those, and you begin to get the style of that player. So let's play all of this together, super slow without a click first. 4 E and Now let's put it to a click, and don't forget to slightly swing it. I'm going to play it slow, and then I'll speed it up at the album tempo. For the 5th groove, we have the song 41. It's going to be right about the 1 minute 30-second mark. This is going to be about 106 BPM. Again, swung 16th notes. He's not doing the real syncopated thing that he was doing in the last groove. What he is doing is he's using the hi-hat to fill in with the ride cymbal, as well as using some floor toms instead of backbeats, which we've kind of seen him do that before in the grooves that we learned before. All right, so let's dive into this one. We have 8 notes for the most part here on the ride cymbal. The kick drum is 1 E and a 2 E and. 1 E and a 2 E and, all right? So for the first 2 beats, it's gonna go crash and 2 and. Accent 2 on the snare drum. 3, 4. Now, don't forget to slightly swing this. On beat 3, he opens the hi-hat with the left hand, hitting it with the left hand, but it only stays open for half a beat. So it only stays open for an 8th note. You'll see it closes there on the and of 3. This is very important because the next one he leaves open all the way to the downbeat. I know that seems like a small thing, but these opening and closings are really signature. He leaves them open for different amounts of time. So it's gonna go and instead of 3 and 4. So it's gonna go and then he has a floor tom. Now, this is where it gets mixed up because of his setup, it's easier for him to play that. Whereas for us, it's a little bit harder. So you're gonna see some crossing over that wouldn't be normal. If I was playing a whole Dave Matthews set, I would just learn to play open-handed because why in the world would you not? Or set the kit up differently and have floor toms and stuff over here if you're gonna play all of that stuff. So we have 3 and 4 and up, 3 and 4 and up. That whole measure together. 3 and 4 and. In the next measure, again, kick drum, 1 E and a 2 and accent 2 on the snare drum. And then we have 8 notes here, so it's gonna go 2 E, 1 E and, 1 E and. On beat 2, it's gonna go 2 E and with the kick drum and then on the hi-hat. Now you'll see him bring the right hand to the hi-hat to play this and of 3, so it goes a triplet pattern. 3 and, 3 and. Then instead of playing a floor tom, he plays the kick drum. So it's gonna go 4 E and 4 E and 1 E and. All right, so measure 3, we have the same thing as in measure 2. Only thing different is he's bringing that left hand back real quick on that hi-hat. So, all right. Then beat 3 and 4 look exactly the same as beats 3 and 4 in the first measure. The only difference is he plays the second tom instead of the floor tom. He closes the hi-hat on the downbeat of 4 instead of the upbeat of 3. All right. So those are the 2 small differences, but in the overall scheme of things, when we're learning a style, that really is a big difference. Let me play this slow for you, and then I'll pick it up to album tempo. And that's going to be my top 5 Carter Beauford beats. Put down in the comment section what your favorite beats are from him and the Dave Matthews Band. Obviously, this was more from the earlier time, and he's got so much material. And with it being a jam band, it's really hard. As you can see, it's just a lot of material to cover to try to cover his style. So it's not a typical like Steve Gadd groove where he locks into something. It's very jam bandish. All right, so leave me a comment as well. Subscribe to the channel. Click that notifications bell if you haven't yet. If this helped you, click that thumbs up button as well. Share it with somebody that you think it may help. If you need some help in your drumming time, go check out the Drum Better Daily program. That's linked below this. The sheet music for this is linked below this for free as well. But whatever you do, I'll see you here in the next video.